Okay, we are recording. Welcome to Staffing Engine's Recruiting Acceleration Customer Panel. Thanks for joining. I am one of your hosts, Matt Dichter, VP of Sales here at Staffing Engine. And my co-host, Casey, why don't you introduce yourself?
Casey Bernard, the VP of Customer Experience at Staffing Engine.
Awesome. And we are here with some of our favorite customers from CrossMed, Focus of Georgia, and Pyramid Consulting Group. And I'm going to start by letting our guests introduce themselves. And why don't we just go in order, Bridget, starting with you.
Sure. Bridget Weber, the CEO at CrossMed Healthcare. We do staffing in different parts of healthcare, nursing, and allied.
Renee?
Excellent. I'm Renee Beach from Focus of Georgia. We do professional services staffing, and then we also have an IT division as well.
And I'm Lydia Boat. I'm the marketing manager at Pyramid Consulting Group. We staff mainly in fashion, but kind of a little bit of everything: retail, marketing, accounting, finance, a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And, as a startup, Staffing Engine has been very fortunate in the early going to have some awesome partners. Both Casey and myself have had the opportunity to work with our three guests, myself during the sales process, and then Casey from an onboarding, implementation, and ongoing customer success standpoint post-sale. And so we have had featured all three in customer case studies. And we thought that it would be good to put a little video behind it and let each of our guests kind of share their story. So starting out, I will take the lead. And before the whole partnership went down, I guess my question for each of the three of you would be, what led you to engaging with us besides my handsome LinkedIn picture? No, what made you pick up the phone? What made you engage with Staffing Engine? And why, and what were you looking to solve, I guess, starting out? And I'm going to start with Lydia and Renee on this one, because you both had solutions in place, and then I'll let Bridget go next. So Renee, why don't you get us rolling?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were using a different partner for our chatbots, and it just wasn't going well. So Matt did a really good job of letting me know every time our chatbot was down on our website. He would call me and like, "You ready to switch yet?" No, I'm just kidding. But that actually is true. So our chatbot just wouldn't stay up. The product didn't deliver. We weren't receiving notifications when people were interacting with it. We could see that they were, but we weren't getting notified of that. So it wasn't delivering the results that we needed. So we definitely had to make a change.
Yeah, similar to what Renee said, we weren't getting interactions. It wasn't down all the time, but we weren't getting the notifications that people were even having conversations. But then if we would log in, we would see that they were there. But it was few and far between. And we wanted something that was a little more engaging, more branded, easier to use. And our website provider mentioned Staffing Engine, and that kind of got the ball rolling. Unfortunately, we had to wait about a year because we had just renewed our contract with the other people, but it all worked out. So yeah, we just needed something that was actually going to notify us and would get people to talk.
Yeah, we're in a pretty tight-knit industry in the staffing and recruiting world, and all of us partners kind of know each other. So I forgot that was what sort of got our foot in the door, and we were happy that you gave us a shot. Bridget?
Well, I did know Matt for previous jobs that he and I both had prior to this, so
that
made it easy. Yeah. But I trust Matt. I like Matt. So of course I was willing to listen. And I think I'm lucky, unlike Renee, Lydia, you guys, we didn't have a staff bot, so we didn't have any of those issues. And I did say, since implementing, we haven't had any issues either. So that's a relief to know that we didn't have to experience what you ladies have. But for us, it was just that response time and just having answers available to people, because again, nurses and the people that we target they work at night and all hours of the day and we don't. So it's a great resource. And, that way, if one of our recruiters wants to hop on and answer questions at any time, the notifications are awesome. So, it was a solution we didn't even know we needed. So it was been very good for us.
Yeah, and it's probably worth mentioning because I know I've heard the word notifications and integration a couple of times. All three of our guests are Bullhorn customers, although I will make the comment that we are not solely Bullhorn specific. So we've got other customers on Salesforce and Salesforce-based solutions like Target Recruit. We are just finishing up our integration with TempWorks, and we have a host of other ATS solutions that we met with over the last 2 weeks at conferences who are eager to integrate with us as we get more and more bandwidth over time and continue to grow. So I thought that was good. That was worthwhile pointing out. And then the last sort of, I guess, sales item I will ask you all before I turn it over to Casey. Besides Staffing Engine's outstanding sales skills, there must have been something during the sales process that you saw that made you consider adopting us as a partner and improving on your current solution. So I guess I would ask, what did you see during the sales process that made you stop and say, oh, these guys might be a great partner to help us solve, these X, Y, and Z challenges? And let's go back to Renee, and then we'll go around the horn again.
Yeah, absolutely. So the product that we were using, it was more of, I don't know what to call it other than bag your own groceries. So we had to build our own bots, create our own flows. And I like technology, but and I like groceries. I don't like to bag my own groceries, and I really don't like to to build my own chatbots. And there was also a delay. So between the time of building the chatbot and then it actually going live, there was quite a bit of delay. And so when I would do the best that I could, and I would go to other staffing websites and kind of look at what they were doing and pick and choose and kind of piece together my own chatbot. But I'm very pleased to have someone that really knows what they're doing and can take that verbiage, because wording is very important in order to get the interactions that we're looking for. So I was thrilled to have that.
I appreciate that. We love the bagging your own groceries analogy. We use it all the time now. And what I will say is that I think one of our bigger differentiators with some of the other solutions on the market, because there's a lot of solutions and there's a lot of good, competition. What we see is that smaller to mid-size and mid-market customers really want some hand-holding when it comes to building out technology. They don't want or need to be the technology experts. I suspect, and we have plans that as Staffing Engine continues to grow, we will have self-service and the ability for customers to go in and make changes on the fly. For right now, because the underlying AI is so powerful and it impacts so many different parts of the candidate and client experience, we really want that to be in our control for the time being. But I appreciate that call out, Renee. Lydia, how about you? What did you see that made you ultimately take the leap forward with us?
Yeah, so the two main things were really the integrations, right? My Pyramid Consulting Group is really, really stressing living in Bullhorn. Everything needs to be in Bullhorn. We're a fully remote company with recruiters everywhere. So we don't have that, turn over your shoulder and say, I have somebody for you, right? So as they were coming in on the other program that we were using, there was no integration into Bullhorn. So it was a manual process, which would add to our recruiters like admin work. And there was no ability for them to attach a resume, which was something that our recruiters were always coming back with. Like, I would send information, they would come back and say, do you have a resume for this person? Or is this person in Bullhorn? Things like that. So the ease of that was really important. And also the Teams integration really stood out because we use Microsoft Teams on a regular basis. And I know the notifications would come in, whereas the program we were using before, we were never getting notified. If you wanted to get notified, you had to download a completely separate program and then hope that it worked properly. Whereas this, it's working, it's Teams, it's something we use every day. So it was just a lot easier that way and sped up our processes.
Yeah, I remember those Bullhorn and Teams integrations being a key differentiator in our process. And I think that's, another compelling point for why our customers partner with Staffing Engine, is because we're staffing and recruiting focused and only key in on one industry. We spend our time building integrations to tools that staffing and recruiting agencies use, like Bullhorn, like Salesforce. Teams has been huge, just because in the move to remote work, everyone sort of moved to collaboration tools like Teams, Slack, and Zoom. And for whatever reason it is, Microsoft has run away with that as a winner in staffing and recruiting. And so our customers love the fact that we have that deep Teams integration as well. Bridget?
Yeah, I feel very fortunate because, again, since this was the first, chatbot we had, we didn't have any of those, anything to compare it to. But again, I mean, the biggest things are just that integration part, right? I mean, anything that flows into Bullhorn makes our lives easier, because if it doesn't automatically flow, I can't guarantee it's going to get in there. And then the Teams integration is critical, again, just with, our market and the hours that people work, and just, if they have questions, we want to provide great customer service, and we're in such a highly competitive industry. So having that ability to, on nights or weekends, if someone wants to, hop on and, communicate with a potential, client or candidate, that's, key for us. And it's been, very good for our customer service.
Yeah, that we harp on having that 24/7 sort of digital recruiting assistant, and especially in verticals like nursing and light industrial, where you've got workers and providers who roll off shifts at all hours of the day. Being able to greet them overnight and on the weekends is a major goal of a lot of our other customers as well. So appreciate you calling that out. Casey, why don't you move into more around the actual onboarding and implementation?
Sure. Can you all share a little bit about your experience during the implementation process and how involved you were in that onboarding process? You can start with you, Renee.
Sure. So I was very involved. It was just really, it was Ryan and myself and you. So we walked through what we wanted those chat bots to look like and the verbiage to be, and you guys made really great suggestions and how we could use those. I would say that a thing that also stands out as a side note is that we have quite a few employees that are in the field and are working in their ability to go in and ask questions. So one of our drop downs is, or one of the options is, are you currently an employee of Focus? And then they can ask different questions to the chatbot and get those answers much faster than, especially during off hours when we're, we're only open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. But if they want those answers and they want them quickly, they can easily access them from the chatbot. So we found that to be helpful as well, as a side note.
Lydia?
Yeah, I would agree with what Renee said. I also was very involved working with you and Ryan on getting everything up and ready, and you were able to kind of guide us, where our previous program, we had to come up with all of the verbiage ourselves and create those flows ourselves. It was nice to have someone kind of guiding that process for us that, was knowledgeable on what would work and what wouldn't work. And all in all, I think it was very simple process. You guys made it very easy. From my end, I didn't feel like it was, labor intensive or anything like that. And we also have the FAQ, which is kind of similar also to what Renee mentioned. And that also was really helpful, something we didn't have before, for people who are currently working with us as temps to be able to access that very quick information that otherwise would take a while because they would have to wait to speak with someone.
Yeah, I would say the implementation, I've implemented several technologies over my career, and I would say this is probably one of the easiest I've ever done. I mean, Casey, I'm not sure that I even did anything, if I recall. I know I had somebody helping me, but even then, one of the questions I always ask anytime we're looking at implementing a new technology is, what what's the time commitment from me or from us? Because man, that was a big surprise in the past with different implementations. I didn't understand that it was going to take, a week of my time, but yeah, it was such an easy implementation just comparatively to other things that I've done. So
It's great to hear. We certainly like to take on most of the lift for the implementation. Some customers like to be more involved than others, but generally speaking, it's a pretty low time commitment on our customers' end. So it's great to hear that feedback. And a follow-up to that question, are there any drawbacks to having our team do all of the technical parts of the implementation and having control over building out those bots?
I would say in the past when I was building my own bots, the advantage is when I have ideas and I want to kind of play with things, that's nice that you have the ability to kind of change it yourself. But I also find your team to be very, very responsive. So anytime anything goes wrong, which in life it does, even, I mean, I hate to say this out loud, but even nights and weekends, Ryan has responded to every ticket that I had and got everything fixed very quickly when things didn't go exactly as planned. So we've made changes that didn't always go like we expected them to go. Sometimes my good ideas aren't such great ideas after all. So
We have him working 24/7.
I believe that. I actually do.
Ryan's
Great.
actually a robot and not a person.
I believe that too.
Lydia?
Yeah, I would, kind of building off of that same thing. The only thing I would say is, if you kind of had an idea, but at the same time, in those previous programs that we were using, even if I had an idea, it took a long time. I had to figure out how to recreate the flow. And so I appreciate having people to reach out to. And also, if we have ideas and maybe they're not great ideas, you will kind of respond and say, here's why we don't think that will work, and provide like that insight, which I think has been really helpful. Yeah, and I agree. We've submitted tickets of, things pop up, and everyone's really responsive. So not really any drawbacks.
It's great to hear.
yeah, I would say no drawbacks. The less that we have to do, in my opinion, the better. Leave it to the experts. And I feel like you guys were so knowledgeable in helping to guide us too, right? To say, Lydia and Renee mentioned, yes, this does work. No, this doesn't work, just because you have, such an extensive background of doing that, which I think is, critical too, because it's, you watch others make those mistakes, so we don't have to, which is great.
Absolutely. And even though we're a relatively newer company, we have decades of years between us of staffing industry experience. So I'd like to put that to use when building out the bots.
Cool.
Matt, back to you.
Yep, and just sort of starting to wind this down here, but you guys have talked a lot about some of the positives around the experience so far. If you could drop some knowledge around positive results that you've seen, positive process change. We'll start with again, I guess we'll go back to Renee.
Sure. Oh, and I also forgot to mention with the onboarding, the project management tool was very helpful. I knew exactly what you needed, when you needed it, when the deadlines were, when to expect what was going to happen. Like Bridget, I have implemented quite a few technology tools, some better than others. And it's just nice to know where you are, where you're going, and when the end. It's nice to see the end in sight. So
Yeah.
Forgot to mention that, but now I forgot your question, Matt.
Positive results or process.
Yes, lots of positive results. So many candidates are applying. Clients have also interacted with our chatbot, so we're getting those leads that we need in order to fill the jobs that we have available. And those candidates are informed because they understand our processes. They literally can click and ask all sorts of questions and get those answers. So they understand before we even talk to them what the next step is and where this is going, and how to apply for jobs. And so it's a lot of those questions that we don't have to answer, and that's kind of nice too.
Cool.
Yeah, in similar way of not having to take time to answer questions or speed your processes. before, if someone came in with a question for HR, it would be, okay, let me go to HR and find out. Whereas now it's so much quicker and easier, and there's FAQ, they can kind of, find the answer themselves. In terms of leads, we have gotten a tremendous amount more candidate leads than we ever were getting on our previous bot. We started actually placing some of those leads. And then client leads, we never got any on our previous bot, and we've gotten quite a few that we've been able to turn into clients and repeat clients. So it's definitely, paid for itself.
That's awesome. And you made a good point. It's not just about that top of funnel candidate and lead qualification, but there's also the candidate and client self-service and being able to get answers to their questions. And I think that's especially important now. We're going into a downturn, and people want their existing employees to be as productive as possible. And so removing some of those manual tasks so that they can focus on relationship building behavior, I think is a really compelling use case for us as well. Bridget, I'm gonna wrap up with you from the sales standpoint, but one thing I would ask that you talk about, you've actually adopted one of our newer tools, Engine Alerts, which Renee and Lydia have not yet. So we'd love to hear about successes with the digital recruiting assistant and chatbot, but also if you could talk a little bit about Engine Alerts, that would be awesome too.
Yeah, I think, Lydia and Renee have great, feedback on the staffing bot, but the Engine Alerts, that's where we've seen production come because of that probably wouldn't have happened had we not had those alerts. We're in a very high volume industry, and what that has done is, we've had a couple of deals that again would not have been done without that, which is, huge for us. Just this week, we started a new division, and they asked to be on it as well because they realized, how efficient it was for them and how it just made, what the information that they wanted to see so much quicker and readily available to them instead of going into our system and having to search all the time. The alerts are just there, and they're not getting, bogged down in their email. So yeah, that has been a great feature, and we're really looking forward to rolling that out to everybody in the company. And yeah, it's going to save a lot of time, I think, for our sales team.
Yeah, and for anyone who's listening to this who doesn't know, Engine Alerts is a Bullhorn specific solution that allows for recruiters and sales folks to respond to inquiries, whether it's web responses, jobs assigned to them, that sort of thing, in real time, or as close to real time as possible. And CrossMed's one of a handful of customers who have been beta testing it for us and given us some really good feedback. So much appreciated. Casey, I'll let you wind us down here.
Good. Last question. What is your favorite part of Staffing Engine's digital experience solution set?
Assume that, well, I'll go first. Yes, so I would say my favorite part is the integration. Honestly, it saves us a ton of time. So the solution that we were using previously, when we did get the information where someone had applied, then that came via an email, which then needed to be copy and pasted to create a record in Bullhorn. And the less I have to do, the better. So just because that took one thing off my plate, I would say that's my favorite thing.
I would agree. The Bullhorn integration has sped up so much of the process and has made things easier. And we've seen that there is more follow-up, and we can track it better because now we can look at the notes and make sure that people are being followed up with on a timely basis. And if they're not, then I can kind of nudge the recruiter and say, well, why not? And we can have those conversations where we couldn't really have that before because I was sending information directly to the recruiters. And if they didn't put them in Bullhorn, then there was no really way to track it. The lead just kind of fizzled out. Whereas now we can track it, who's following up with who, did they get passed along, their resume being in there, and it makes things a lot easier. Also just in like a back and forth, right? It cuts out that initial, hi, my name is so-and-so, I'm a recruiter at Pyramid Consulting Group. Can you send over your resume? And then what if that's not even the right division for that client, for that candidate, right? It kind of simplified that whole process and streamlined it. So we know what that person's resume looks like, what they're looking to do, where they're located, and we can direct them to the right recruiter right away.
Yeah, I would say, again, the integrations are critical just because it makes everything so seamless and easy. And then really at the end of the day, it's the adaptability, because again, we can have great technology, but if it's too complex for our people to adapt to, then it's never going to work to its fullest. So that's really been impressive to me, is just how easily adaptable it is for everybody that uses it. So
Awesome. We really appreciate the kind words. Real quick before we jump, I want to say something back to you three. When I came on board at Staffing Engine, I told Ted, given the fact that we were in startup mode, that as much as we want to bring on all types of customers, we really have to vet who we partner with during the sales process, because I've had experiences where I've had to fire customers because it's that we weren't seeing eye to eye. And so you three are a great example of customers who have given us a lot of positive feedback, helped steer us in certain directions, really spoke highly of us in the marketplace. So me, Case, and the rest of the team are all super appreciative of our partnership with all three of you.
And really great to work with all of you.
likewise.
Thanks so much, everyone. Talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.